It's time for your favorite podcast, Full of a Took. Pat, on you.
All right. Shit.
Thank you for joining us once again. We're here to talk about Book 2, Chapter 5, The Bridge of Khazad-dum,
Khazad-dum.
which might be the coolest chapter of the Fellowship of the Ring so far, in my opinion.
It was an entire action movie just in a chapter.
Yes,
They
so
never
suspenseful.
stopped moving.
Yeah. I was completely on the edge of my seat the entire time. I really commend Tolkien on his writing for this chapter because legitimately it like left the world of like lore and fantasy and this, and it was a straight up action banger.
Prior to this, we've been on like a train ride. Like we get to go through the Shire and we see the countryside and this is all nice. And then it turns into a roller coaster
Yeah.
and you're going up and it gets real dark and real scary. And then the bottom drops out.
Yeah.
And that is this chapter is the free fall.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yes. It's an incredible amount of violence.
Yeah.
Yes.
There was a lot of like really vivid violence in this chapter.
Yes.
I think somebody was taking out their rage.
Somebody was reliving their war days.
Yeah. There were some emotional thoughts happening when he was writing this.
So the previous episode, we covered Chapter 4, A Journey in the Dark. So after getting completely bested by the Snowy Mountain, our gang has a disagreement about where they should go next and what they should try next. After getting attacked by a group of wargs, the decision is basically made for them. They have to keep going, and they have to go into the caves of Moria. On the way there, they find a disgusting, slimy lake, and they find great stone doors that will not open without a password. It takes Gandalf some time to figure out that password, just as a giant tentacled monster reaches out of the lake and tries to grab Frodo. They all rush into the cave, the doors collapse behind them, and they are now trapped in the mines. So they begin their journey to find a way out in the dark. Pippin tosses a rock down a well and alerts someone to their presence, and Frodo thinks he hears someone following them. Finally, they find the tomb of Balin, a dwarf lord and adventurer that we know from The Hobbit.
I forgot how good of a chapter that was.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on.
I'll be honest, I'm completely here for this whole like dark horror section of this book.
Me too.
It's so like grotesquely creepy, and while it is terrifying to see things that are in the light, I think it is scarier to not see what is in the dark. And that feeling just surrounds this whole chapter. I had like multiple times like the hair on my neck went up reading this. It was awesome.
3 days in the dark.
Yeah.
3 days.
And they know something's in there with them.
Yeah. I was so thrilled with this chapter that I shaved my beard off into a Gimli mustache. I just loved it.
So like head on, it looks like just kind of a dark mustache. But when you get the profile shot of Chris's face, it like comes to life. It comes off of your face like a good inch and a half.
Yeah, it's fun because I wanted to trim my beard anyway. It was getting a little long, and especially after editing these podcasts, I just look at myself for hours, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what the heck's going on here? And but I love a good mustache. I don't know if you do this
God.
when you shave, but
Yes, he does.
you have to leave the stash for a second to just pretend that you're gonna have a mustache.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll be a mustache guy this week.
Yep.
And then you go, nah.
No, yep.
And then you get rid of it. But it's always like when you're shaving, that's kind of the last thing you touch. And I did the sides and I did the chin, and I was like, I'm just gonna leave it for the podcast.
Yeah.
And just give me something to twirl.
Yeah, you need a little bit of like mustache wax.
Yeah.
You've got like a whole shelf of hair that
Yes.
comes down and out.
Yeah.
It's like you are blocking the wind.
It's terrible facial hair. It just goes every direction. Like
my
my
God.
mustache likes to poke into my nose half the time, and it's infuriating. So anyway,
Sounds
with
bad.
that, I think that's a perfect opportunity to jump right into chapter summary, and then we can dive in because I just want to talk about. I have so many things I want to talk about.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so
Now, I'm just kidding. Huh? I just wanted to scare you.
chapter 5.
Get his adrenaline pumping so he talks faster.
Go.
Chapter 5, The Bridge of Khazad-dum. Let's take a quick second and sort of discuss how we got like to right where we are. Because before the podcast started, Laura had said like she could not keep the directions straight in her head. And so much of this is they took the North Passage or they faced east and like, because they're taking a 40-mile journey from the gates of Holland on the west end all the way east to the main gates of Moria to pass under the mountains. And at the end of the third day, they see daylight. They make it up to the Great Hall. There's daylight coming in. It's facing east, but they're too high up, so now they have to go down a couple of levels. But they're more or less there. They head north out of this room, and they go to what ends up being Balin's tomb. That's where we find them at the beginning of the chapter. They've realized there's bones and weapons and fragments of like shattered chests and stuff, just detritus everywhere. They're standing in a graveyard. They're standing in a battlefield. And one of the things they find is a book, but it's been hacked and slashed and it's like partially burned and it's covered in blood in places. And so they're like, well, let's dust it off and read it and see what we can get. And it's a record of the dwarven colony in Moria. And it's the Book of Masdrubal, the Book of Records, basically. And it says some really wild stuff. And I want to read the important part in full.
Okay.
So I'm going to read fragments, because fragments is what the book gives us. Because throughout this reading, as Gandalf is reading through the Elvish and the Dwarvish and a bunch of other scripts, because multiple people are writing in different languages, things are smeared, they're unreadable, pages are cut up, burned, whatever.
It says there's blood on like all of it.
Yes, it's all over it. So the book starts year 1 of the colony. So 30 years ago is when the colony started. And it talks about how they've found it. They're in Moria. They've secured the east gate. They've secured the upper hall. They're looking for Mithril. They found Mithril. They found the armory. They're going to send dwarves over to the gate of Holland to go find that. And then there's a couple of entries over the years, and then it gets to year 5, the final part of the book. It starts with Gandalf saying, "Here's something, a large bold hand using an elvish script." "That would be Ori's hand," said Gimli. "Gimli knows who this is." "I fear he had ill tidings to record in a fair hand," said Gandalf. "The first clear word is sorrow, but the rest of the line is lost unless it ends in Esther. Yes, it must be yesterday, the 10th of November, Balin, Lord of Moria, fell in Dimril Dell. He went alone to look in Mirror. An orc shot him from behind a stone. We slew the orc, but many more up from the east of the Silver Lode. Pages are blurred. We have barred the gates, and then can hold them for long if horrible suffer." And here's the final page. "We cannot get out. We cannot get out. We have taken the bridge and the second hall. Frar and Lani and Nali fell there. The pool is up to the wall at Westgate. The watcher in the water took Owen. We cannot get out. The end comes. Then drums in the deep. They are coming."
It's so vivid.
More or less immediately, Boromir says, "Okay, so which way do we go now?" Boromir wants out.
Fair.
Check, please.
I mean, they're all standing where they stood in the pages,
Yeah.
and they got trapped.
Yes.
So he's like, "Which way do we go?"
Yeah, he's like, "This is a trap.
Yeah. Are
we
this
out?
isn't. Yeah, this ain't great." And Gandalf says, "All right, we're gonna go here, do this, do that, make a left, and we'll be out of here. So we gotta go." And those words get out of his mouth, and this huge drum starts beating. Doom, doom, doom. And it's like it's shaking the foundations. It's shaking the mountain. It's shaking their hearts. This deep, booming drum. And so they're freaked out, and they're going to go back. They're going to get out of here. They're going to run. And then they hear horns and shouting and more horns. They've got their blades out. And Gandalf's sword, Glamdring, is magic. And Sting, Frodo's sword, which he got from Bilbo. They're elf made. So what that means is when there's orcs nearby, they glow blue. And wouldn't you know, then bitches blue. Immediately, they're just like, we're trapped. They're coming. We can't get out. Because it's all coming from the main chamber with the daylight where they spent the night. So they're trapped. They went into a side chamber. They look around and they realize there's another door. They're in this tomb, in this little battleground chamber. There's horns and feet and yelling coming from the direction they came in. They've got 2 doors. Block them up. Bar them. Seal us in. Gandalf says, no, leave the eastern door. We're not going to get trapped here. That's not how we go out. Okay, fine. So Boromir throws his shoulder into the door and is getting ready to close it. And Gandalf's like, wait a sec. Before you do that, pops his head out and yells, who dares disturb the sleep of Balin, Lord of Moria? And there's a lot of laughter, evil laughter that comes up the hallway. And so Gandalf's like, all right, bam, and zaps him with something. There's a huge flash of light, and suddenly the laughter stops. Gandalf pulls his head back in. They shut the door. And Gandalf's like, there are big orcs out there, and maybe some trolls. We gotta block this door.
Urukai, right?
Yes, Uruks.
Uruks. Okay.
He's like, do not
Uruks of
shut the
Mordor.
door. And he goes out there, he comes back, and he's like, shut the fucking door!
Yes.
Yeah.
But the problem is the door won't lock. It's a stone door, but the lock mechanism is broken. So they have to wedge it shut. So they're kicking broken sword blades under the side, and they're just trying desperately. And Boromir's trying to keep this door shut. And then something starts pushing on the door and starts grinding the door open. And Boromir is putting his whole back into it. And the door opens enough that this huge arm comes through with this scaly shoulder. And then this big, toeless foot props the door open. And Boromir's like, whole lot of nope here, and pulls out his sword and hammers on that shoulder, and his sword dents and flips out of his hand. And you get this feeling of oh, this is bad.
Impenetrable armor or
Right.
something. But it's his skin, right?
Yeah. And Frodo's just like, nope, the Shire, and stabs that foot as hard as he can. And it works. There's black blood, and the thing yells and pulls back, and they're able to kind of shut the door again. And it's just we should go. We need to run. But somebody points out we can't just run. They'll just chase us through this door. And running downward into the darkness while someone's trying to kill you from behind is not how we can do this. We have to make them fear coming into this room. We have to fight them. So the next time they start hammering on the door with rams and all this stuff, and the door opens. And then as soon as it gets wide enough for the orcs to come in, they flood in. Everyone's got their swords out. Everyone's got their knives out. Legolas shoots 2 through the throat. Gimli takes somebody off at the legs. Boromir and Aragorn are going ham. By the time they kill 13 of them, they break. They're done. The rest run back through the door. Everyone's fine, actually. The only person who's hurt is Sam. And he's got one cut and those crazy fucking eyes on him. And everybody else is just breathing real hard. And Sam's like, this is it. This is what I was made to do.
Yes. It's one of my favorite parts. It's Sam turns into a little war horse, and it's just instant PTSD in the moment,
The gardener's got fire in his eyes.
Yeah, seriously. And Gandalf's like, we gotta go. And they're like, yeah, before the trolls come back, we should really go. And then immediately, this orc chieftain jumps through the door. And he's the chief because he's tall. He's huge. And he's covered in mail, which is chainmail, armor, head to toe, black. He's got a big spear, big shield. And he runs right at Boromir and just shield checks him. Just hits him with the shield, knocks him on his ass, slips past Aragorn, and rams this spear into Frodo. Pins him to the wall. Everyone has a quick second. And Aragorn hits this dude on the top of his head with all his might and just cuts him in half. Well, his head in half anyway. Done. He's done.
So violent.
Yeah. And then Gandalf is like, no, we really got to go right now. Let's run. So they do. They scoop up, Aragorn scoops up Frodo and they run for it. Except for Gimli, who's got he's got his head down. He's got his hand on the tomb. He's having a moment. This was his people. These were his family. And Legolas is the one who grabs him and is like, we're going. Drags him out of the room with everybody else. Mm-hmm. Down this dark side passage, this east-facing passage, down into the darkness.
Down to Goblin Town.
Down to Goblin Town.
Fuck.
Oh, no.
Fuck town.
No, not down to fuck town.
Oh, God.
So they're going down this dark stair, and Gandalf's like, go on, I gotta go, I'm gonna go check the door. I'm gonna hold the door. And Aragorn's like, that's nuts. And the response is like, we are past the point where swords are gonna do anything. So it's time for magic. It's time for Gandalf to be Gandalf. So everybody else is hiding way down the staircase, and Gandalf's at the top of the staircase, and they're kind of watching. Suddenly there's some yelling and a flash of light and a ton of noise and a collapse of stone. And then Gandalf comes flying down the stairs, falls among them, and he lands and he's like, that was bad. I might have met my match. But guys, we really got to go. And Frodo's like, I can walk. And Aragorn's like, fuck, you're alive? I thought you were dead. And even Gandalf's like, I'm glad that Aragorn wasn't carrying a dead but brave hobbit. There's a lot to wonder about you, isn't there, Frodo? Frodo's like, maybe? But maybe I shouldn't tell them that I'm having trouble breathing.
Oh, God.
Because even though he wasn't cut by the spear, you get hit with something like that, you're going to crack a rib.
Mm-hmm. But his chainmail, his mithril chainmail saved him.
Something saved him.
Oh.
Yeah, no, it was the mithril.
Yeah, I thought so.
Well,
but for some reason, he doesn't want to tell anybody about that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Bilbo told him to keep it secret.
Yep.
Okay.
So Gandalf's like, we have to go. And they have to hurry. And that turns out to be Gandalf poking around with his staff like a blind person because he can't turn his staff back on. So they're running from orcs. They're running from this drumming. They're running from the yelling and all the rest of it at a crawl at maybe a mile an hour.
Because they're going downstairs and stuff, right?
In darkness and through passages. And remember all that shit that they almost fell into when they first got into Moria? The fissures, the cracks, the side passages, all of it. It's that kind of, everybody's thinking about that as they crawl forward blindly in the dark. And I don't know if you guys know, but your average walking speed as a human being is 3 miles an hour. So imagine walking a third that fast in pitch black darkness while a horde of orcs and monsters is behind you wanting to just drink your blood. It's not a good time.
Oh, my God.
And they do that for an hour.
Just shuffling.
Yeah.
No wonder
Shuffling their way
Gandalf
around.
needed a break. He's emotionally spent.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
His mana's out.
Yeah. Well, because he says, he's like, I need a break. I can't, I need a breather. Gandalf the Grey is like, hold up, guys. Give me a second. And yeah, you get the impression oh, fuck, maybe he doesn't just look like an old man. Maybe he is old and is tired and his strength is waning. Gimli's like, so what was that up there? And Gandalf's like, something powerful and evil was on the other side of that door up there. I put a spell to lock that door with magic because it doesn't have a real lock because it's busted. But that takes time to do properly, so I just did my best. And something tried to open that door, and when it broke the spell to open the door, I had to use a different spell, and the resulting explosion collapsed the chamber. So Balin's buried there, and so maybe is a monster and a bunch of orcs.
So at least they're not on their heels anymore.
But
those specific ones.
Correct.
Because the drums do not stop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Gimli's in the lead.
Wait, ready? You keep going. I'll do the drums.
The drums do not stop. And Gimli's in the lead, and suddenly Gimli is like, I see some light, but it's not daylight. Is it fire?
I was waiting for that.
Thank you. And so he's like, but it's not daylight, and it's getting warm. Gandalf's like, hold up. And Gandalf goes ahead, and he looks around, and he's like, No, we're going in the right direction. This is fine. And they go out into this hall, this enormous hall, huge. And it's got these like pillars, like black trees carved out of stone, miles underground. Like it's crazy. And it just goes. And it's all lit by this red light. Some side passage has been blocked by like a fissure in the ground, an opening, and it's just shooting fire up. Gandalf is like, this is it. We are in the first deep, the second hall. The gate is a quarter of a mile from here. We just got to run for it. That fire, that was meant as a trap for us if we had taken the main road down, but we didn't. So, lucky us, let's fuck off. And so they run, and they're running, and it's like full sprint down this huge open ground. The orcs, like, they're screaming and chittering in anger, and arrows start flying at them. And Boromir's like, yeah, they didn't count on that. They're trapped on the wrong side now. And he has himself a little laugh at the orcs' expense. Because Boromir is apparently out of his mind, maybe?
Yeah.
But he's very, very nonchalant about the fact that they're going to get trapped and murdered underground. Gandalf's like, oh, good, the bridge is ahead. And Frodo's experience is all of a sudden the floor drops away, the chamber opens up in every direction, and it's just this inky black chasm. He can't see the top, he can't see the bottom, he can't see the sides. And out from this hallway extends this 50-foot long arch of stone with no railings, with no handholds, with no protections at all. Ooh. It's meant to be a trap for invaders who come the opposite way, who breach the gate and the first hall to hold them here so they can only come one at a time across this huge expanse. So Gandalf sends them all over. He's like, go on, get. And first go Merry and Pippin and Legolas and Gimli, and then Frodo and Sam go over, and Boromir and Aragorn. And then they're all on the far side. And arrows have been shot at them, and like Frodo got hit again, but it pinged off, and Gandalf's got an arrow through his hat. Legolas is like, I can do this. I got a bow. And he turns to fire, and he just like, and drops his arrow and like wets himself. And they turn and they look, and these two huge trolls bring these stone slabs out and throw them down like a bridge across that fiery fissure. So now the orcs are free, and the orcs are coming. But they're not. They move aside. This huge shadow pushes past them, pushes through them. It's this huge darkness with maybe a man shape in the middle, but power and terror were in it and went before it. And Legolas cries out, a Balrog is come. Gimli drops his axe and covers his face because Durin's bane has come. And Gandalf is like, yep, that's a Balrog. I was not ready for this. I am already wearied. And what is a Balrog?
What is a Balrog, Pat?
Well, the short story is it is a demon of the old world.
Whoa.
And that's about as far as we'll go.
Okay.
Because that's all we can do right now.
Okay.
Elrond was like, Gandalf is one of the most powerful beings in Middle-earth. And they go through Moria, and wouldn't you know, they find another heavyweight. And it's coming for them. And it's racing towards them. This demon, as it passes the flames and the orcs, seems to like catch fire. It's got a mane of fire. It is made of fire and shadow. And they are just like absolutely stupefied. Except Boromir pulls out his horn and throws a blast through it, and it echoes, and it's enormous noise, and the orcs all stop. And even the Balrog stops until the echoes stop. And then they kind of shake it off and they come at him. Gandalf turns and says, this is my fight. Get out, run, fly. And he's been giving them directions the whole time, like, go there, make a left, head east. You're looking for the gate. This is it. And he turns to face this thing. And everybody else is like, okay. And Boromir and Aragorn don't go. They stay. They stay at the far side of the bridge from the Balrog. And so Gandalf goes to the middle of the span, and he's got his sword and his staff. And this Balrog, this demon, comes to the foot of the bridge, and unfurls its wings, huge shadows of wings. And it's got a flaming sword in one hand and a fiery whip in the other. And Gandalf says, "You cannot pass." And he delivers this amazing line that I want to quote. He says, "I am a servant of the secret fire, wielder of the flame of Anor. You cannot pass. The dark fire will not avail you, flame of Adun. Go back to the shadow. You cannot pass."
I just got chills from that.
And the fire in it seemed to die, and the darkness seemed to grow. And then it steps onto the bridge with Gandalf. And it is huge and dark and malevolent. And Gandalf looks alone and gray and bent. And it comes at him with the sword. And Gandalf has Glamdring, and there's sparks and white fire, and the Balrog's sword is shattered. You cannot pass. Boromir and Aragorn are determined not to let Gandalf face this thing alone. Aragorn yells, "Elendil!" And Boromir yells, "Gondor!" And they go to rush the bridge. And Gandalf strikes his staff into the span, and the staff shatters. And the bridge under the Balrog drops out, and the thing falls into darkness. And its last act is to take its fiery whip, throw the end of it at Gandalf, grabs him around his knees, and drags him over the side of the bridge. And as Gandalf is being dragged over the side of this bridge into this endless chasm, he says, "Fly, you fools." And he's gone. And they run. Their leader is dead. They run.
It's good storytelling. RJ's crying.
They run because Gandalf the Grey is gone. And Aragorn's like, "I will lead you now, but we gotta go." And they're running, and Frodo is full of grief, and Sam is crying as they flee for their lives. But they're not even out yet. They haven't made it to the first hall. All of that happened in the second hall. And they're running for their lives out of Moria. And they start to see the daylight come, and then there's ruined gates, and they run. And as they go to kind of break through and out into the day, this orc captain, this gate guard, steps in front of Aragorn. Aragorn just bop, cuts him in two, no time to waste, and they're out into the daylight. And they're in the Dimril Dale on the east side of the mountains, and they've made it out of Moria. And there's nothing and no one except for them and the fading sound of drum beats. And the drums stop. And they run until they're out of bowshot of the gate, and they just collapse. And Aragorn says, "I will lead you." And they're alone with their grief. And that's how it ends.
Good
It's
job.
fucking crazy.
I can never get through that part without crying. Even having Pat just talk about it. That is like the most devastating part of book one for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's so hard to talk about that. The writing is amazing. The atmosphere is amazing, and especially on the heels of the last chapter. And then we're confronted with Gandalf. He's gone.
Yeah.
He's gone.
It's like Aragorn has that line that's like, "I will still lead us."
Yes.
It's so upsetting.
Their leader is gone.
We still must do as he commands. I will lead you.
Which is funny because the second to last thing Aragorn did was disobey Gandalf.
Yes.
It's shocking, right?
Yeah.
Because Gandalf has driven so much of the action of this entire book, directly or indirectly. He's been up to his elbows in everything that's happened. The first half of this book was about the hobbits either talking to Gandalf, waiting for Gandalf, looking for Gandalf, wondering where the fuck Gandalf is, or meeting Gandalf.
We're just doing what Gandalf told them to do. He's been the guiding force for this whole journey.
That's what all of them are doing. That's why Elrond was okay with Gandalf going, but not like Glorfindel.
Yeah.
And now he's gone. And they've been on the road for they just made it over the mountains.
Yeah.
That's all they've accomplished.
There's so much more ahead of them.
Yes.
And they just lost their quarterback.
They lost Gandalf the Grey.
Yeah.
They lost a wizard, ancient and powerful. Their leader, the guy who knew everything, gone.
Tolkien was like,
Well, luckily
it's going to be way too easy with him.
Luckily, they still have Mary, who also knows everything.
Oh, well, yeah,
Oh,
that's
God.
true. He does know everything.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
This is such a crazy chapter. I really just thought that the execution of the writing was, like, Tolkien's just at his prime. There's so much to convey. There's so much to take in from this, but also... Like, it's not a long chapter. I mean, I think
It's
was
10 pages.
It's only 10 pages. Yeah.
It's so short, but it's just packed. Every sentence was just very necessary.
It's
And very
concise.
effective,
It's
yeah.
vivid, gory, emotional.
Yeah. Yeah. When Aragorn's fucking sword cuts the guy's head in half. It says
That was gory.
It says it cut right through his helmet.
Cleaved his
He
head
has
in two.
His helmet, and the helmet just fell to the side.
Yeah.
It's like
Visceral is the word I was
Yeah.
looking for.
And it's the culmination of a lot of things because there's been a lot of foreshadowing on like the fate of Gandalf.
Yeah.
From like, and it's mostly tied to Aragorn, but as you read these chapters, like this is one of those parts of the books where I will say, if you are not reading the books, I like to think I do an okay job, and I think we do a good job with the material, but like we cannot compare to the writing that Tolkien does in this
Yeah.
moment
Yeah.
because the man's a master of the art.
The only thing we can do is dive into this. The first thing I would like to bring up is that Pat was so good at giving his rundown of the chapter that our co-host RJ started crying in the middle of it. For those who are listening and not watching, she had tears coming down her face during the end.
It was beautiful. I had a great
You did an
vantage
excellent
point
job.
Moved to
over here.
tears.
Yeah.
I thought it was because you were out of wine, but I guess it was Pat.
Nah.
You made my wife cry, you son of a bitch.
Oh, God.
Oh, do it again.
I'll do it again. Don't threaten me.
Yeah, but you know, I like teared up when we like read it together too. It's just one of those things of the book. It's just such a it's such a soul crushing scene
Yeah.
because of who Gandalf is and what he, symbolizes. Sort of this, not only just a guardian and a leader, but almost a parental figure. And to stand there and watch him slowly fall into darkness, it's so sad. I mean, everyone will go through that one time in their life, and it's something I really connected to, and it's really just tragically beautiful. Because even his last moment is "Fly, you fools." Even his last
He's telling them
thing
what to
he
do.
says, he's telling them what to do, telling them to save themselves. It's so beautiful.
It makes you feel helpless in the moment. I think everybody has like a very relatable moment in their life where they felt helpless. There's already been loss in this book, not to the caliber of Gandalf, but like people have come and gone. We just left the Tomb of Balin. Like like Gimli was dealing with loss in that scene, and it didn't hit that way.
Yeah,
But it was
build a pony.
Build a pony.
Honestly, yeah.
I really
That
miss
was
hit
probably
pretty
the
hard.
closest
Yeah.
to Gandalf
I
so
miss
far
Build
for
a
me, at
Pony.
least. Is build a pony.
The orcs were upset that their friends were killed.
Were they?
Clearly, they started. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh my God. So they
like-
raining arrows down.
Screaming.
They're like, there's going to be a lot of stew tonight.
Oh God.
Yeah. So the first thing I want to talk about is Floi. Floi?
Floi?
Floi? Flui.
Yeah.
Flui?
Floi? Flui.
It's the word flu and then an I. How's that become Floi?
Wait, spell it?
Flui.
FLU is the word flu? Oh, like a chimney flue.
You have the flu.
Yeah, the word FLU is the word flu.
Yeah. Okay. You
Plus
got
an
me.
I. Flui.
There's a couple different ways to
Oh.
spell
Or
that
is
word.
it flui? It could be flui. That feels weird.
I'm going to say it's probably flui.
But the thing is, in the book that's covered in blood.
Oh, it's an O, dude. Your book might have spelled it
my
wrong.
book spelled it FLUI.
FLO.
You did not
with
share
a
this thought with me. I would have told you it's
I.
FLOI. It's
So
flowy.
Floi.
So That's so funny. So Floi died, and he is buried under the grass near Mirror. And I was thinking about the information that is in this book. This company of the ring has embarked on a very, very, very long journey. Every single thing they can carry matters, and it's precious, and they only have a little bit of space to carry food. Gandalf is like, oh, this book is so interesting and has all the records of how everybody died. Gimli, you carry it the rest of the way.
Yeah.
And Gimli's like, okay, sure. And I'm just thinking, but this is a fucking book.
It's an artifact.
But it's also like probably more important to Gimli than any of the rest of the fellowship.
Story of his
Of course.
people.
Yeah,
of
it's his
course.
people.
So I just
Yeah.
was thinking about, like, if you were embarking on like a 900-mile hike and someone handed you a giant encyclopedia
A tome.
Yeah, like you. And
Oh
you
my
were
God, like a phone book or two?
Yeah, you're like, fuck, I gotta carry this thing now this whole way.
Let's actually talk about like what was handed to him and what the intent was, right? So the death of Floi and Nolly and Lonnie. Floi. All right. And Balin and the colony and all the rest of it, all of
How
these
many,
records.
do we remember how many dwarves set out 30 years ago?
It was, quote, a great many of Dane's folk from Erebor, from the Lonely Mountain. It was enough that the king maybe wasn't so happy about the number of people who were going. And none of them are coming back. Gandalf is like, here, take this artifact of your people's attempt to recolonize the greatest kingdom of dwarves in Middle-earth. Also, it was a bad idea, but here you go. Yeah, because he calls it foolish.
Yeah, he did.
He's like, it is not their time yet. And the word "yet" was really interesting.
Yeah.
But also, he gave it to Gimli, saying, Dane, your king, will find this of interest. So Gandalf is clearly thinking of a future where Gimli makes it all the way home again.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an important written history for his community.
Once again, it instills hope. Like he gives it to Gimli. This is what you do when this is over.
Yeah.
There is
Yeah.
another task after this giant task that's going to be really hard to accomplish.
There is an and then.
I thought it was so interesting when they're reading the book. I was creeped out reading a book about people creeped out reading a book.
Yep.
It was like Inception.
That's fair. Yeah.
It's like that trope in every video game where it's like, oh, you find the logs and the
Yeah.
journals from the the mad laboratory where they talk about like, oh, the monkeys are fine. Oh, the monkey's not responding well. Help, blood everywhere.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean?
It just
like,
once again took me back to Evil Dead. Like
Yes.
Chris's favorite movie of all time.
Thunder.
It's
Sorry.
like they start to either listen to the tapes or read the book, and
Yeah.
bad things always happen. It's like you're like, no. I mean, I would want to do the same thing if I found a tome. I'd
gotta
start
know.
reading it.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
Speaking
Yeah.
of Evil Dead and terrible things out in the woods, what is the Watcher in the water? Is that
Loved that? That had to be the tentacle monster.
That's the tentacle monster?
Right?
Yep.
Had to be.
So he says that, it was...
it's Goldberry.
Oh my God.
She just shoots up.
I guess, yeah,
That's her true form.
There's a lot of tentacles involved.
The daughter of the river.
that's her sister, Blackberry.
Oh God.
Is that where that anime thing comes from?
Maybe. It might be. So the Watcher in the water, does that mean that if that water that was outside of the thing, if you were to swim down it, you could swim into the mines?
No.
Because it said no? Because Gimli's like, oh, we're lucky that it was not in the water that was below in the thing.
We were lucky. Okay, so the Mirror, which is the lake where what Floi is buried near, that Balin went to go look into, is referenced in Durin's song, in the song that Gimli sings. Mirror is the lake in front of the east gates of Moria. It's gorgeous. It's flat. It reflects all the stars.
A map would have been so helpful.
I'm going to either get you a map or tattoo a map onto you. So actually, to get us back to water. So Mirror is a different lake on the east. The western lake, where the Watcher in the water was a lake created by damming the stream that they had been looking for, remember? They were like, there's supposed to be a stream, and there's this muddy little crap, and like, what's this? And it's like, oh, somebody dammed it and flooded the valley. And then when somebody's like, what was that thing? Gandalf's like, there are a lot of dark and evil things in the world. Couldn't tell you. So it came up out of Moria and slithered into the water.
Slimy.
Oh, God.
Why do the children's teeth keep falling out?
Weird.
I thought it was interesting.
Public health.
I thought it was interesting that the big guy who sticks his foot in the door had no toes.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. And the scaly skin, like I didn't think orcs had scaly skin.
That's-
Was
'Cause he's a
that
troll,
The
right?
cave troll. Okay,
That's the cave troll.
good.
Trolls
But
don't
before-
have toes.
Apparently not.
Apparently
guess
not.
not.
Just learned that.
I feel like that was like a fun thing for Tolkien to add, but kind of dumb.
It's gross though, right?
I guess, yeah.
I'm thinking like
out of the
elephant
dark.
feet.
Yeah,
There's
like
a
big
nub
elephant
comes
feet.
through.
Yeah.
Like not like you got a foot with just no toes on the end, but like like an elephant's foot or something, like something clearly and irreconcilably inhuman. It is a monster. It's not a man with scales and a weird face. It's inhuman.
Not only that, the size of the body probably couldn't stand toes.
Yeah,
It probably needs a wider platform to hold itself up and have better balance.
And actually, I had to look something up because it said that the first chieftain that speared Frodo was man-sized. And I was like, wait a second, how big is an Uruk? How big is like this black orc, this like the big orcs? Okay, they're like man-sized. How big is a normal orc? And like you look through and you see other references, and like they're kind of like hunched. They're all smaller than men, like 4 or 5 feet tall, whatever. But like the idea is that this one was like at a level with Aragorn and Boromir.
Right.
And then you have this elephant-footed, scale-shouldered cave troll nightmare monster, which is bigger than that.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed, throughout the chapter, Tolkien was, trying to imitate the drums and trying to spell out what the drums sound like. So his onomatopoeia for that was doom, 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 doom.
Yes.
And so throughout the chapter, we just see the word doom so many times. It has to be at least 50 times.
Yeah.
And it's an onomatopoeia for the drums, and it's a perfect one. It's not like he just pulled it out of his ass, but it's also, I feel like, foreshadowing for what's about to happen.
Yeah.
Sets the
Because
tone.
Yeah.
there's nothing scarier than hearing doom.
Yeah.
Like doom is approaching.
We've all heard drums that big, though, right?
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
you
absolutely.
went
It's a perfect onomatopoeia
and
for
you
the
feel
sound.
it in your chest.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of like good things that really happen in this chapter, like positive fun moments. But
No.
one of them is Frodo taking our friend Sting here.
Give me the knife.
Let's talk about Sting, since Sting kind of really plays a part in this chapter. Maybe more than one finger holds it.
No, this is more fun. This is more fun, Chris. We're just gonna. It's okay. I'm just gonna.
So, for our listeners, we have a replica of Sting in our studio, and we've been keeping it on the wall this whole time, so everybody who's watching gets to see it. But Pat, talk to me a little bit about Sting, since you're holding Sting in your hand. What does it feel like? What's the weight? What's the size? Describe it for our listeners.
Okay, it's way too small.
Yeah.
Like if I'm gonna get into a knife problems fight, I want a bigger knife.
Yeah.
This thing is
Way bigger than a knife.
it's
That's not
It's
a
a
knife.
dagger.
it's maybe 18 inches.
However,
Yeah.
it makes the scene where they're taking the barrow weights
Yeah, right.
knives and
Because
they're
they're
calling them
knives.
hobbit swords. When
Yeah.
Tom Bombadil's like,
This-
"This is a sword for you." It
This
would put it
is
in
call that a knife.
perspective.
basically a long sword for
I would call it a dagger.
for Frodo's size. This is a long sword.
it's so
It's like a
light.
short sword. It's
Now, is this proportional to Frodo or proportional to us?
see, it's not
Is
proportional.
this like half of Frodo's height?
That's what I'm saying. I think
That's-
this is a full size sword to Frodo.
For Frodo, yeah.
Yeah, but to us it feels tiny.
it's basically a long knife.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I love it.
So we've got some engravings on it, which the person who made this did a really nice job
That's really cool.
of engraving. I can balance it on
That's
my
what it looks
leg.
like when there's an orc nearby. That's what comes on the sword.
Yeah, so it's pretty neat. So this character, Sting, kind of has its own character. It's a little bit surprising, I think, because Boromir, who clearly has a badass war sword. I mean, he's like a warrior. He's not going to be carrying around a junky sword. His sword was like bang, 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 and like flipped off to the ground and was dented.
Yeah.
And then Frodo was like got his toothpick out
Yeah.
and was like, ah! And it
I wrote
went,
down in my notes. He goes, "The Shire,
the Shire stabs him."
Stab.
And I love that Aragorn sees it.
Frodo, son of Drogo.
Yeah, he goes, "Frodo, son of Drogo, one for the Shire." And I was like, yeah. Like this nice, like, oh, I needed that moment, you know?
Meanwhile, Sam is like 1,000-yard stared, covered in blood.
Yeah. So it's an interesting juxtaposition between how Frodo and Sam handle this sort of like, I guess, arguably the first real battle that they're actually like their first like thing, right?
Actively participating in.
Yeah,
Well, Sam attacks the Watcher, right?
Yeah, he gives it some
He starts
stabbies.
stabbing that, and that's when he's like, ah!
But that's not like a face-to-face
Yeah.
battle where you're looking something in the eye while
Well,
you're
To be
killing
fair,
them.
Frodo didn't look anyone in the eye when he stabbed this guy in the foot.
I'm just
I
going to
just
hang
I
on
see
to
a
this.
theme here.
Sam did.
Frodo has stabbed now 2 enemies in the foot.
Ooh,
Oh, yeah.
yes.
The Black
'Cause he's
Rider.
small.
Because now this.
Because he's like only hip high.
He
He's
keeps
like,
doing the same art move.
he's got one move, and it works.
Apparently.
Oh my gosh. So, anyway, I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
No, it really is. And the other thing, you know who doesn't come up in this chapter almost at all? Merry and Pippin.
True.
Besides the pecking order on the bridge.
So what about that?
Okay, so when I first was reading this, I was actually really upset when Gandalf, when they know that the Balrog is coming and he's sending people across the bridge, he says, Gimli lead the way, then Merry and Pippin, then Legolas. They go across. And then it's Boromir and Aragorn, but first in front of them, Sam and Frodo. And I got really upset. I was like, there's no way in hell you'd have the ring bearer not go first. But then after they cross, he goes, okay, now Sam and Frodo may go. I go, oh, that's fucked up. He would make sure that the weight could be A, carried by this rinky-dink bridge, and B, there was nothing on their side that was going to get them. So the first 4 were like the test group. And then here comes Frodo, Sam, Aragorn, and Boromir, the badasses and the important one, because now we know it's safe.
Oh my God.
Because like, it just hit me in that moment. Like, that's so fucked up.
I didn't get that at all.
He's like, Gimli, lead the way. Gimli's like, I will lead the way. Like,
That's why I love reading this with you guys.
That's so funny.
Oh my fucking god!
I never noticed that until I was reading that moment. I was like, what the fuck? Oh. I see you, Gandalf.
Yeah,
Poor Merry and Pippin.
They were just sent to the slaughter.
yeah, we're going.
Like, I mean, Gimli, okay, he could probably hold his own, but if it's just Gimli and those two.
Yeah. Like Lost just like dancing behind them.
They're going to be on a kebab.
Yeah.
Holy moly. I also thought it was interesting that Ted Sandyman made an appearance.
He did.
Well,
Wow.
in that,
he got a mention.
yeah, he got a mention in that.
Mention, yeah.
After the
I thought
battle,
we were never going to hear his name again.
well, after the chamber battle, when Sam's got his 1,000-yard stare on, you know, the quote is like, even Ted Sandyman would have been checked by the fire in Sam's eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was cool. I was like, oh, throwback. I think we should talk about Gonch.
The orc
Gosh
word for fire.
darn.
The only word in the orc language that Gandalf knows. Big shock.
We should talk about language, right? Because language is so important.
Yeah.
It made me laugh out loud. And he looked at me like, why are you laughing? Because of course he's like, I heard their orc voices and all I could understand was their word for fire. It's like, of course Gandalf knows the word for fire in every tongue. Mr. Fireworks himself. Middle Earth.
He's like, yes, but fire. How do I say fire?
It's the one word he knows in every single tongue
you
of the
might want to
world.
learn help. And he's like, no. Fire.
Bread. No.
Yeah. He doesn't use help magic. He uses fire magic.
He's at the fire order.
Well, and then honestly, it's funny, but there might be something to that because again, this is a world where language means something. So
Yeah.
maybe knowing the word
Magic
fire
of fire? You know the
means
words of
something?
fire. That's a
Yeah,
great
maybe
point.
it means he can command fire if he can
Right.
say it in that language.
can
Especially
and
because his
speak with
staff
fire,
is
so it
basically a
speaks with him.
flashbang attached to a stick.
Yeah.
You know, he just keeps going bang, and everybody's like, ah, God.
Yeah, so in that
Just has a
moment,
Molotov cocktail in his back pocket.
so like
Actually, in the dark, that reminded me of like whenever you go out with a parent or a grandparent to a restaurant, they just like flash on their cell phone light at a dark restaurant.
Oh, okay. I was like, where is this going?
No, it's like Gandalf with his staff in the dark.
too dark.
And everyone, but he just keeps putting everyone's face. And we're like, ah.
And then my grandma set the restaurant on fire.
Grandma said, "You shall not pass," and she meant it.
But then she did pass. Sorry, that's not funny.
God damn it. So,
Her name was Glandalf.
Gladistoff.
Glandalf.
Glastoff.
Sorry.
3, 2, 1. Glastoff. So, another funny thing about language, and I laughed at this, was when Gandalf does his like peep around the corner and he yells out, "Who disturbs the rest of Balin, Lord of Moria?" And the orcs laugh at him. That implies that all the orcs speak like the equivalent of English.
Why would they?
Right. That was, I thought, a funny moment.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the difference
You're
between-
right, though. They don't speak English, so what are they laughing at?
Right. So here's what I'm going to say, Chris, is the difference between me and Gandalf is when his jokes don't go over, he flashbangs you. So like,
Yeah.
you want to keep going down this road?
Do you want to flashback
He's got a
me?
Molotov cocktail in his pocket.
I interpreted that.
Is that what you're saying?
Stop making eye contact.
I actually interpreted that as his tone came across. Because, you
It
know,
was
like,
very fearsome.
I had a question about the drum beats, though.
My doom doom.
So I was under the impression that the drum beats were the sound of the Balrog approaching. And then the Balrog fell and the drum beats kept going on. And then that made me think that there's just an orc
his
behind
servants.
all the people who are fighting. And he just has a drum and he was like, boom. And everybody was like, not now. He just fell. And he was like, well, no, I can't just do one. Boom.
What,
and they were like, guys,
that is the bells?
yeah.
Guys, when I went to Catholic school when I was in middle school, and I was in the band program, but I have no rhythm. And I also had no work ethic, so like I couldn't actually learn an instrument. So they put me in the.
I also had no instrument.
They put me in the percussion section.
Yeah.
And it like there was one
The
thing.
worst place to be for no rhythm.
Right. Well, that's how we found that I had no rhythm. Because like I was put on like the cymbals for some Christmas song, and it was like I was half a heartbeat off.
Oh my
no.
God.
Either ahead or behind. I thought that my band teacher was going to have an actual heart attack. He was like a little old man, and he was great, but like his face would change color.
Yeah.
Can't just do one.
No,
It's not natural.
You gotta keep it going.
I don't know what they were drumming on, but I kind of want to because of the
Really?
To be that big,
just the volume of that noise and how far it carried.
skin,
Yeah, right. What's
stretched skin,
yeah.
makes the loudest noise.
right? Whose stretched skin?
Stretched
Yeah.
skin.
Well, I mean, there
I
were
have
a
to
lot of
say, of
dwarves.
all the jobs in the dark, that would be the one I'd be most okay with.
Right.
Making music,
Skinning?
even if it's for
Oh.
doom.
The guy tuning that drum, they're all sleeping. Boom, boom.
The neat thing about Tolkien's world and his world building is that magic can be very subtle. We talk about words having power, and there was a question that we had before the podcast about "you cannot pass."
Oh, right.
Was that a magic phrase? Was he casting us? Was he using a word of command, capital C? Because when Gandalf talks about what happened at the top of the first stairs the first time, when Gimli's like, so what happened up there when you collapsed the chamber? He's like, I went to cast a spell to lock the door, didn't have time to do the right spell, and so I used a word of command, like I used a spell. Gandalf says, I used a word of command. I used a spell. And then there was a catastrophic explosion, an earth-shattering kaboom. And it went very poorly.
Kadoom.
Oh, God.
Kazaboom. Kazadum-dum.
Doom, 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 doom.
Right.
I want you in my room.
And then it's just the Balrog smacking his whip.
Yes.
Is this what you wanted?
The Balrog came out and he was like, "Yesh gabash, back to the Khazad-dum.
So,
My name is Balrog."
I am Darren's band. And then you... It's words of command, though. It's magic. There is magic, but it's not always clear in Tolkien's world what's magic and what isn't.
Right, because he kind of sets it up. He brings up, like Gandalf even explaining that he used command, capital C, like the speech of command. And then later on, he just behaves in a way that's commanding, but it's not clear, like, was that speech of command or whatever it is, the word of command,
Right.
or not. And it's kind of, we're just left in the dark, literally.
Yeah. No, yeah, because
know?
and it's the same opponent.
Yeah.
It's the Balrog at the top of the stairs. It's the Balrog on the bridge.
Which I love you said opponent because they are both opponents of fire. One is dark and one is light. And that's why they're equally matched.
Yes.
It's so great.
Because he calls him the Flame of Udun and says, I am a wielder of the secret fire, the Flame of Anor. Not Arnor, which we've been introduced to. There's a lot of this stuff going on. Elendil, Arendil. One's a sword, one's a...
Swap out one letter and
Yep.
expect
Yeah.
you to remember.
One is a man. One is that man's great-grandchild with a sword that rhymes with his grandfather's name. And now we have Anor and Arnor. Arnor's a kingdom. Anor is the elvish word for sun. You won't find that in the book. This is an appendix thing, but I just want to clarify for folk because Tolkien does these things where he drops things and leaves them there and leaves them hanging, and it makes
They
the world
only make sense to him.
but they're rich. It's
Until you
rich,
finish
right?
the third book
Sure.
or the sixth, if you're being accurate, and then you read the appendix. And
True.
then you finally know all these little cliff notes or these little footnotes that you've been waiting for.
Yeah.
So then you have to read the whole thing again.
Yes. And that's
to have that
You
perspective.
get to. Back. So it's the Flame of Anor, which is the sun, the
Love
elvish word for
that.
sun. Yeah. So it's like, I am a servant of the sun, and you are the Flame of Udun. And Udun is a word for one of like the ancient dungeons of Sauron's old master. So it's like, basically it's like, I work in the daylight, and your ass is a devil from hell.
Dayman.
Dayman and Nightman.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so like this ties back to words have meaning and words are super important. But it's exciting for me and I found this really fun as a kid because I wanted more questions. I wanted the world to be bigger. I wanted more all the time. So when you had these hanging questions, I loved it.
Yeah.
But I know that's not how you are, Laura.
No, not really. I read very quickly, so that kind of stuff kind of just like, bloop.
Yeah, you're just like, that didn't make any fucking sense. Next.
Yeah.
And that's fair. But like, I identify with this kind of storytelling so hard because Tolkien is a master storyteller.
Well, with that, I think it's time for food for thought.
All right.
Okay.
I'm excited for this one. I'm hoping to make somebody cry that isn't RJ.
Oh, fuck.
It's gonna happen.
All right, let's do it.
All right.
All right. So when I was trying to figure out what to make for this week's episode, I really wanted to channel the fire and all of the hot heat and
the doom.
the doom. Yeah.
The smut.
So
The
I
sense of
decided I
foreboding.
would make my own salsa and see if I could make anybody cry.
This is super spicy.
Well, I've got 3 different ones for everybody to try. This one is our mild. This is our medium, and that's our spicy. So mild has 1 jalapeno in it. Medium has 2 jalapenos and a little bit of habanero. And then the spicy has 1.5 habaneros in it.
So I am excited
Yeah?
for this because I
Yay.
love hot sauce. I can't handle them, but I love them.
Good.
Princess Hot Chicken was nothing for me.
I can't handle them, and I don't love them.
Pat's
Yeah.
gonna stop at mild.
I'll
You're
take
gonna
too
have all
hot
of
for
them.
you.
Salt is a spice.
Pat will be having all of them. That's the deal.
Well, let's go. Let's try it. And
right,
for our
let's do it.
listeners, we have 3 lovely bowls of salsa. As she described, they go up in,
Yep.
in heat.
Mild, medium, and spicy.
Yeah, but
And then
you
some
made
tortilla
a quart
chips.
of spicy.
Do we all do it at the same time, or do we answer quiz trivia? And if you're wrong, you have to have the spicy.
I'm-
Okay.
No,
are
no,
we
I'm there for
starting?
that.
Wait, actually, are we starting with mild and working way up?
That's
Yeah.
what I would suggest.
Okay. Let's all start with mild.
I'm down for the quiz.
Pat, can you run the quiz? And then I'll ask you a few questions.
Okay. Laura, name a dwarf.
Balin.
Okay, cool. Chris, name a river.
You talked about one tonight twice.
River Anduin.
Ooh.
Ooh.
And I have the medium.
RJ,
Okay.
name a language.
I'm trying to think of a creative one.
Oh, that's good.
It's actually going to
Oh,
say
it
that's
is a
the
little
basic,
spicy.
but is it the
It builds.
Yeah.
black tongue?
That'll do. Okay. Laura, name a dwarf that rhymes with the first dwarf you named.
Dwaylen?
All right.
Oh, I like the
Dwaylen
medium.
the Rock Johnson.
No, I think,
Oh my God, can you imagine?
oh my God. Perfect dwarf.
Pat,
What?
name the 3 times that Sam cries.
Ooh.
Sam cries when he's going to get to go see elves. Sam cries when he kills a man. Sam cries when he thinks Bill the pony is going to die.
Wait, when did he kill a man?
He killed an orc, which isn't technically a man.
He didn't cry then.
No.
He had fire in his eyes.
Fuck, okay.
He was excited.
Eat the hot
Oh,
chips.
the big boy.
I feel like you should be eating. Oh my God, he's going for the hot.
Well, he failed. When if you succeed, you may choose. If you fail, you must suffer.
I did not realize the rules of our
This
engagement.
is Pat being full of
just made
fire
him up.
and terror.
They make sense right now to me.
The Shire! Yay! Okay, so for everybody
Pat's
who
gonna
doesn't
shit
know
fire.
me, gonna shit fire. For everybody who doesn't know me, I grew up in a house where salt was a spice. So like, this is gonna be
Same.
fun. Laura was making this in the kitchen with a blender with like gloves on. And
I did
and
put
like
gloves on.
goggles. I thought she was like making meth. And like, I walked into the kitchen and my face started to itch.
You walked in and you were like, "Spicy bitch." Breaking Bad
exactly.
reference.
All right. Oh, I can't
right.
wait to watch this happen.
Oh, there's so many seeds.
The seeds are only from the jalapenos.
All right,
Habanero seeds got
Oh
whizzed.
God, no! Oh God, no!
Laura, you got a question for RJ?
No.
While he recovers.
Name all of the ponies.
Oh, man. I used to have the song memorized. Short-term memory problems. Okay.
Answer the next question correctly.
White nose, swishtail, bumpkin, lumpkin.
Fatty lumpkin. Close enough.
Oh, it's fatty lumpkin. Excuse me.
Close enough.
No.
Oh, okay.
Not close enough?
Good enough.
But I'm
That's
missing,
good enough.
But I'm missing the first part of the song. It says white nose, swishtail,
You okay?
No.
bump and lumpkin and bumpkin,
Bumpkin.
and then fatty lumpkin. But what's the one I'm missing?
Bill.
No, he
No.
didn't. He came later.
Yeah.
Bill's a pony.
Can somebody just look it up for me? Is this
Sharp
gonna bug me?
ears.
That's it. But I still have
Oh.
to eat the hot one.
But
can't believe I pulled
she
that out of my
didn't-
butt.
She's wrong. She didn't say Bill. Bill's a pony.
I'm
I
talking
did
about
say
the
name 5, but...
No, you said
said
name
name the
all the
ponies.
Oh, I
ponies.
did say name all the ponies.
Yeah, Laura
She did it.
pulling out the big guns for name a rhyming dwarf.
Listen, I can't pull these things.
Sorry, what's
out of
Bilbo's
my
zip
ass.
code?
I'm actually really excited to try this.
Good. You're gonna like it.
Right.
Bilbo's like, "What's a zip?"
What's the zip
I
code?
don't have a code to a zip. Very good, huh?
I love that it has actually a lot of flavor. It contains the cilantro, lime, onion,
I think we need a
Jalap-
zinger for her.
How can you taste?
habanero.
I haven't had this yet.
It's really good, actually.
What was the most amount of points I had to talk about of all the episodes? Which
Oh, it was in the 40s
I want to say
or 60.
80s.
No.
80s,
Well, that must have been very
this is
early
not your
on.
question.
I know I'm
Sorry.
fucked because I would like to not die, but this is me panicking.
See, I have no Tolkien questions really to ask you,
Oh no!
but I have podcast questions to ask you.
All right. Okay. I guess I'm gonna say
I'll do it with you
what?
if you're wrong.
I'll tell you what. I am wrong because I have no fucking idea. I would have said 60, but I think it's probably in the 80s.
It is high, yeah.
So what I'm going to ask you is,
It's 106.
holy shit.
Jesus Christ,
Yeah.
have we taught you nothing? How can you have so many questions?
That was in the beginning. That was actually, you're right. In the,
So
This is chapter 2.
I'm
Yeah.
kidding.
I had
That's a
2
good. That's a
pages.
very good place for 106 questions.
And they weren't questions, they were notes.
Yeah.
oh, Pat.
Oh.
Yes. This is great. So, Chris, without looking behind you,
Okay.
there's a lamp in the corner.
Uh-huh.
How many bulbs are on the lamp?
7.
Incorrect.
Fuck, how many are there?
No.
How many are there?
No, this is your next question also.
He's giving you a hot one.
Okay.
Oh, no, you have to do it together.
Yeah, we do. There's so much.
Oh, we're gonna make Pat barf.
Not on camera.
No, in the car on the way home.
Not in the car, out the car.
Please, yes, it's my car.
So, how many times has she done the catch up on the previous chapter?
Well, we just did episode 16? Is this 16?
This
I'm
is
not
6
helping you.
No.
Fuck. Hang on. All right, 12 plus 5
You shouldn't lie to her.
is 17. Yeah, 12 plus 5 is 17. Divided by 2. Who did the first one? You probably did the first one. We skipped the first one. So 17, 16. So I would say 8. Nobody
have an
actually
answer?
knows the answer.
Absolutely have to have the answer before you ask the question.
I don't have the answer now.
Because we can't cut. So,
I've done 7, I believe, so far.
Okay.
Laura.
Because he did 2, I did 3.
Don't
4,
touch your eyes,
5,
baby.
6,
This is
7,
fine.
8,
I'm doing great.
9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Laura.
That was really entertaining for everybody. I know.
How many? There's 3 rings of elven power. What are the 3 centers of elven power?
Knowledge, healing.
No. Like the locations on a map. Or the people associated with
The
them.
3 locations that can withstand the force of Sauron.
Yep.
Well, the 3 elven locations that I can think of would be
Yeah.
Mirkwood,
Okay.
the lands across the sea. They might have a name.
They do.
Yeah.
So you gotta throw a name on that, or are you gonna take the L?
Hang on, I want to think of the third one.
This is spicy.
Really?
Rivendell, obviously.
Rivendell. Okay, so you are 1 for 3.
Mirkwood is not an elven place?
It is, but it's not one of the 3 locuses of power. It is. Does anybody want to take the?
Rivendell.
Yep.
The last
Rivendell?
homely-
Yep. That was the one Laura had.
Yeah.
That's the last homely home. Also, Imladris.
Yeah.
Okay. What are the other
Where was
2?
Imladris?
Imladris is Rivendell.
That is Rivendell.
So it's the
Lothlorien.
same one.
Yeah. But,
Okay.
So you are 1 for 3.
Okay,
So do we
I
know
thought you
what
were
the
saying that
other
was the
2
second
are?
one, and I was like, that is not fair.
All right.
Lothlorien?
Lothlorien.
Oh, well, I haven't learned that yet.
That's awesome. Yes,
No,
you did.
you did.
This was
Lorien.
last episode.
Lorien.
Jesus.
And what's the third one?
We haven't been there yet.
No, and we're not going there. What's the third one?
It's the West.
Yeah, it's the land across the sea.
No, it isn't.
No?
No, because that's across the sea. It's not in Middle Earth. What's in Middle Earth? Where do you go before?
Grail.
The Grey
Havens.
Grey Havens.
My,
got it.
all right, you guys got it. All right.
Got it.
All right, so team effort. Everybody gets some spicy.
Everybody fails because everybody wins.
can't
Nobody
feel my
wins,
mouth.
everybody loses. That didn't
The
make any
heat has
fucking
moved
sense.
into my lungs and my nasal.
Pat. I've said this several times, but what was the actual running time, the final running time of the Christmas episode?
Wasn't it like almost 3.5 hours?
Wait, the finished cut? Or
Oh no. The
The raw recording.
He just said it.
Yeah, I know what it is.
how do you guys know this?
Because I listen when people talk.
I'm fighting for my life here.
I've said it multiple times.
That one really builds.
It was what 3? Yes, and I've been wrong more than once. Is it? I think it's 3.5 hours. Do I need the exact number?
Yeah.
Yes.
3 hours and 15 minutes.
You're going down.
Anybody else want to take it?
308.
3 hours and 8
There
minutes.
you go. 3 hours, 8 minutes. Those 2 passed.
Oh, man, 7
You're up,
minutes.
baby.
This is the worst 7. What's a tongue?
Are you speaking the black tongue?
Oh my god, this is not great.
Well, I knew I would make somebody cry tonight. Unfortunately, it wasn't Chris, but it was my
I'm gonna
husband.
stop.
Well, what a fitting conclusion to this episode.
I need dairy.
That was delicious. Thank you so much for that.
I generally am really enjoying it.
Yeah, it's great. I love it.
That's actually very flavorful. Usually hot
I can't
stuff.
believe you're going back for more of the hottest
It's
one.
pretty good. Thank you so much for watching another amazing episode of Fool of a Took. Make sure you like and subscribe to whatever platform you're watching and or listening to this on. If you're listening to it, you might be interested in checking out our YouTube. We have a full filmed show version of this that you can watch.
You'll get to
If
see
you-
Pat crying.
If you only watch this, feel free to give us a little subscribe and support our podcast on a podcast platform, like an audio only. Either way, it all helps. It's hard to talk because my tongue is kind of falling out of my mouth. But anyway, what's the name of the next chapter?
It's chapter 6, Lothlorien.
What is it?
Lothlorien.
Name of the next chapter is Lothlorien.
The name of the next chapter is Lothlorien. I would like some ice cream.
So Lothlorien, I would like some ice cream is the name of the next chapter. Ugh, thank you. Good night.